What's going on, foam fam? Welcome to blaster detailing. Flywheelers have electronic components in them that are sensitive to most liquids and moisture. They require a special approach when it comes to cleaning and detailing. The basic tools you're going to need are some kind of power driver. It just makes things faster for as far as removing the screws. I wouldn't recommend it for installing the screws. Any kind of number one Phillips bit. The number one is going to be thin enough to fit into these narrow screw pockets. Any kind of used Soulker toothbrush or ultrasonic cleaner. These are just a little bit easier to use because they can reach hard to reach areas. And for those stubborn spring seats that are hard to reach with your fingers, any kind of bent nose precision tweezer like this. And that's pretty much it. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, so the first thing you want to do is remove your magazine and lay it aside. What we want to do first is take it apart. Let's get to it. Once you have the shell off, we can tell that this shell is very soiled on the inside. It has a little bit of sand and whatnot. Jam door comes off with this pin. Pull off and put it in a magnet tray to secure it. And then you can set the jam door aside. And then we're going to start taking the blaster apart from front to back. We're going to start with the little components such as these little sling mounts. Anything small that can fly at you, we want to take them out. We're going to dismount our flywheel cage. Now you should actually be able to pull this entire assembly, including this bottom rail, off. And then you could pull this barrel area off. The flywheel cage is attached through a cable network that reaches the controls back here. So we're gonna have to remove this cable guide right here to loosen up our cables. As you get your flywheel cage assembly loose, now you wanna start loosening this area, but you wanna try to take it apart one piece as much as possible. So anything that you see that's attached to itself, such as this pusher mechanism, you wanna leave that intact. We wanna start with the ones that are attached to the body, so we can try to remove as many things together as we can. More springs, magnet tray, plastic, lay it to the side here. All right guys, we got our air compressor all nice and charged up. Now we're just gonna hit this up with some compressed air. Now that our flywheel cage is nice and clean, we want to inspect the flywheels and manually remove any debris that the brush didn't get. It should be loose enough to remove by finger now. Just pieces of dart head rubber that stick to the flywheels over time. It's always good to have those nice and clean, especially since we're already in here. Now once this is all done guys, you have two options. If you're technically inclined and you're familiar with electronics and soldering, you can unsolder these 2 points and remove this entire assembly so you're free to clean these shells without any worries. Assuming that most of you guys have never even gone this far into a blaster, I'm gonna show you what I consider to be the most user-friendly way to do this. You basically want to get all your electronics and encase them inside a Ziploc bag, and then you want to go ahead and Ziploc with the wires coming out of the center. And I'd like to take it a step further. I like to fold this a couple times onto itself, and then I get a zip tie, and you go ahead and secure these electronic components tightly into this watertight space. And now we're ready to go to the kitchen sink and clean our blaster. We have arrived at the kitchen sink. You want to have some kind of a towel near your cleaning area so that you can lay the parts to dry afterward. You want to get one of these scrubber sponges, fill it with something like Dawn or Ajax soap. What you want to do first is you want to rinse your blaster, just like doing dishes guys in a way. First you want to give it a good rinse, and then you want to get to scrubbing. Basically target any areas like the mag well that have accumulated dirt over time. If it's very dirty, you'll see the dirt start to run. And just make sure you get in there really well. If there's any parts that are hard to reach, you can use a brush that has longer bristles to kind of get into these areas, like these little nooks and crannies. And then basically just repeat for the exterior of the blaster. Make sure you get into these tight areas where there may be some dirt. Now this blaster was extremely dirty, that's why I used it. It's one of the ones I actually had to do this for anyway. You'll notice it also in this area here where the Picatinny rail mounts are, get really dirty inside. Of course inside the screw holes and these tight areas between where the grip meets the shell. Once you're pretty sure you got all the dirt, you want to go ahead and rinse it. Now once you're confident that there's absolutely no more dirt on here, you want to go ahead and lay this on your towel. We're still going to hit this with compressed air to get small bits of water out of the shell, but for now you want to lay it to dry. And now we're going to do the same thing for the electronics portion of the shell. Just be careful you don't put too much weight on this hanging on here. Just hold on to it. I like to hold on to it with my hands while I do this part. Right now guys, what we want to do for the smaller items is you want to plug your kitchen sink so you are not at the risk of losing anything. Keep the water running, fill it up a little bit. Basically just gonna start cleaning parts and laying them in the water to rinse afterwards. Now some areas like the pusher assembly, you won't have to clean because those can be cleaned at a micro level with the ultrasonic brush. Any obvious external pieces that you could see that are soiled, like these sling mounts for example, any triggers or rev triggers or mag releases. Once you're done guys, rinse the parts real well and then set them aside to dry. Just make sure you examine this area very well and you confirm that there are no small pieces left in the sink, and then you can go ahead and drain. Alright guys, now we're going to charge our air compressor. You want to have a couple towels handy. We're going to dry the blaster parts, and then with the air compressor we're going to get rid of any remaining water that could be stuck in any of these nooks and crannies, especially these battery terminals. Make sure that all the water is evacuated. Alright guys, we are back from the general cleaning. And now what we want to do is start doing everything pretty much in reverse. You can either clean off these screws or you could just get new ones. You can get a Dremel with your wire brush and pretty much do a quick buff on the head of these screws. It should remove that rust. So there you go, no more rust. Now, before you put your blaster back together, guys, if your battery terminals are corroded, there's an entirely separate video for that. It's got a barricade in the thumbnail. Basically, it explains how to fix corrosion on batteries. And now is the time you want to fix that before you put your blaster back together. Moving on with the final assembly, and then I'm going to show you guys the final stage of this detailing job. All right, guys, we're almost done detailing our modulus strife. The only thing left, and this is an optional step depending on the condition of your blaster when you find it, you'll find that there are some areas that maybe the soap did not take off, like maybe some scratches that left paint from another surface on them, such as here on the mag well, and then just a little bit of maybe some deep blemish specks such as this one here. These you could basically grab any kind of microfiber and manually wet them with the 70% alcohol. Be careful not to get any of this alcohol on any of these painted surfaces because it will remove the paint. As you can see, that stain is now gone. Basically any crevice where you could see that there may have been any kind of foreign material after a scratch, like right here we have a minor scratch and it has a little bit of the dirt from the other surface on it. You just hard rub the alcohol into the plastic and it will get it out. Again, this is extremely important not to get it on any of the painted surfaces. This is only for surfaces that may have gotten any kind of stain from another surface while the blaster came in contact with that other surface. As you can see, any kind of Sharpie or ink will come off of the blaster. This alcohol stuff is really good when it comes to removing foreign paint and inks. Now you could take it even a step further over this and use the 90% if there's a real stubborn kind of paint or ink on the blaster. You can remove it with the 90, but I find that the 70 is sufficient enough for most cases. Here on the stock attachment point, we have a little bit of ink residue. We'll have to wet our microfiber with some fresh 70 here. And as you can see, it starts to come off with some decent pressure. And it depends also on how much you're going to be using a stock. Maybe you don't mind because that area is going to be covered, etc. Now there's also a few other things you could do. Like if there's areas of any of the emblems that are scratched out, you can repaint them on, including the white areas. I like to use a permanent paint marker. Just make sure that the marker is in good condition. This one seems to be painting. You could just basically retrace very carefully, not to get any on the gray surface behind it, right over the white. Just have to have a little bit of precision and a little bit of patience, and you can get it done without a problem. Might need a couple of coats, but by the time you're done, it should look really nice. Just like that, guys, not much to it. Preferred if your marker has a sharp point, but other than that, you could do a couple more coats once it dries to get that solid white look, but it's definitely always going to look better than what it was before. And there you have it, guys.
Detailing is an important part of the hobby, especially if you're an avid Nerf thrifter. It is not only good for proper sanitation and hygiene, but it's important to prolong the life of your blaster. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and possibly subscribe if you're up for it. We'd love to have you as part of our community. I already got to get back to working on the next project, so till next time, stay blasting, Foam Fam.